As someone who is passionate about tarot and loves to dive into national and international politics, starting this podcast was only natural. In this first episode, I'll share how I use tarot to understand politics for myself and hopefully to help it understand it for you too. Welcome to Reading on Headlines, where I read the tarot on news headlines. This is the place where tarot meets progressive politics. I offer insights on the mess that is the world of politics and media, and do interviews with tarot readers who share our passion for leftist ideals and social justice. Let's start with part one. A little introduction to me. So, I am Ruby. I live in the Netherlands, born and raised here. So, I definitely know a lot more about Dutch politics than American politics, but American politics interest and intrigue me very much. I have previously done like almost weekly political tarot readings on my YouTube channels. I also have a YouTube channel, Tarot with Ruby, where I talk about tarot chats, deck reviews, all that fun stuff. And on there, I also did live streams, political tarot readings, but I found it not sustainable to go live every single week. Soon after I stopped doing those weekly live streams, I actually got burnt out from my teacher job, which I used to do. Right now, I am on unemployed sick leave, which is no fun. So I want to keep myself busy with hobbies like starting a podcast. And this isn't the first podcast that I've made. I've had other podcasts in the past that weren't about politics, but I really wanted to bring back the reading on headlines where I read tarot on news headlines. I really enjoyed doing that. And I thought, you know what? I also miss podcasting. So I got to do both. So that is a little introduction to me, I guess, what I do online. Other than that, I have two dogs. I read the tarot. That's one of my hobbies. I'm also interested in astrology. I definitely want to incorporate some of that in the podcast episodes. Probably not every episode, but I would love to do like chart readings of people that are involved in news stories, or I already know whose chart I'm gonna read in the next episode. So I'm really excited about that. Other hobbies that I have, I like to crochet and sew. I haven't really done either of those in a while. Um, Ever since starting like to heal from my burnout, I've been able to read books again, which has been super fun. So that is a little bit about me. You can find me on YouTube, Tarot with Ruby, on Instagram, Tarot with Ruby, or for this podcast, I also have an Instagram if you just want to follow the podcast, Reading on Headlines. And I also have the video podcast available on YouTube, Reading on Headlines as well. So, what to expect on this podcast? Like I said, I've done political tarot readings before. Throughout the week, I gather some news articles, and then before I record the podcast, I'm gonna pick the ones that I want to talk about, that I want to read cards on. We'll have a couple of news articles because I am reading on headlines, and we're gonna take a look at those headlines, add a little bit of the article, and then I have some questions that I want to have answered in reading about that news topic, politics topic. And I don't just want to do the political tarot readings. I also want to do a little bit of pop culture, just a little bit, just for some lighthearted fun, because I know politics can be really draining with everything that's going on. So I want to have this podcast be fun too, instead of just doom and gloom all the time, which politics news can be sometimes. If you let it overwhelm you. Other things that I am going to do on this podcast, I would love to do social media minutes and shout outs from listeners and viewers. So feel free. Actually, I encourage you to leave comments if you're watching the YouTube podcast episode, or if you're on Spotify, you can send me a voice note or a voicemail. You can DM me or leave a comment on Instagram, and I'll shout you out in the upcoming episodes. So that is what I hope to be doing. Like I said, also hopefully some chart reading, just a little bit, because I'm definitely not a professional chart reader. I am a professional tarot reader. Yeah, that is what I expect to do on the podcast. Then, for the last topic, how can tarot help us understand politics better? So, in order to answer that, I really have to talk about how I like to use tarot and how I use it to read on political themes, on political headlines. So for me, I don't like doing yes or no tarot readings because I find that s- if you ask a really closed off question, they're gonna get a really closed off answer. That's what I believe. So I want to ask more open questions because I think tarot is best used to explore the gray area. And there's a lot of gray area in life. I want to get insights and potentially some guidance in how we can make sure that we don't get overwhelmed with all of this. So I don't really like to go into timelines of things because I think there's such a thing as free will, and we all have our impact that we make on the world and on the timelines. So it doesn't really make sense to ask for an accurate like prediction when something is going to happen or how something is going to happen exactly. I think that isn't really helpful. I think it's more helpful to understand reasons behind the situation, behind the headline. And I think that is more important than trying to read the future. And I think that is where tarot can help us understand politics better because we see a lot happening in the world of politics, in the world of media, even in the world of pop culture. And it can, like I said, it can be really overwhelming. It can be really frustrating if we don't really understand why certain things are happening. Now, there are, of course, a lot of ways that you can explain what is happening by common sense, by knowing what's up in politics and how politics work, how politicians think. But not all of us are that knowledgeable in politics, are that consumed every single day with politics. And I like that tarot can validate those claims of the people who are very much involved in politics. But it can also maybe show a different view, a different perspective. And I just really like that tarot can offer that. If you want to know me better, know what kind of energy I will be bringing to the podcast, you can check me out on YouTube, Tarot with Ruby, and you can get a vibe of who I am and again, what I bring to the podcast. There's also another episode out there for you to enjoy for from reading on headlines where I'm actually going to be reading on headlines. I just wanted to have this introductory episode as well. So you know a little bit about me, about who's the girl with the cards, talking about politics with tarot. Thank you so much for listening to Reading on Headlines. Stay sane, stay safe, and do some self care today.